Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday night talk. My name is Greg Jamiel, and I want to welcome you to our talk today. We have a very exciting talk to do. I asked our private group, a healing community with Greg Jamiel. There's a lot of members in there, so if you're interested in joining, you can hop on there and join that group. But I asked them today, what would they like to work on? What would they like to talk about? And a lot of people had mentioned the chakras. So, in this Facebook Live talk, in this talk that we're doing now, we're going to focus on an intro to the chakras. I wanted to take a few moments to explain. Hey, Janine. I wanted to take a few moments to explain what they are and how they go out of balance and why it's important to bring those chakras back into balance. And I'm going to speak about this in three different ways: the energetics, the physical, and the spiritual as well. So, this is something for those of you, hey Charlie, who have worked with me before. You know that I kind of love to focus on those three areas because for me, I believe that true healing can happen when we focus on the physical, mental, and spiritual as well. When we take that holistic approach to healing. And the chakras, this is what's really exciting. The chakras are kind of the blueprint for our life in many different areas. And so when we work with healing the chakras in this way, we really can feel and uptake some massive healing in our life. And we can implement some changes that have huge impacts and effects on that. So we're going to get into that in just a moment. Hey, Bonnie. I see Bonnie signing in there too. And there's a lot of people jumping in there. Hey, Heidi and Deborah. Good evening. Good to see you guys. So I want to go over some housekeeping stuff first. So just so you all know, if you're looking to book a session with me, you can go to gregoryjamiel.com and you can book your session there. We also have two important dates. One, my next workshop coming up. It's called Mantras and Our Voice as Medicine. Now, recently, the past couple of talks that I've done have been around energy. And this workshop, Mantras and Our Voice as Medicine, will really focus on the energetics of what we're saying to ourselves and what we're saying to the world around us and how that impacts our life. And the meat of that workshop will be working on a Hawaiian process, a healing process called Ho'oponopono. And so, for those of you who have lost a loved one or maybe have some heartbreak, Ho'oponopono is a beautiful mantra to work with, and it brings a lot of healing in our life. So that is going to be on Monday, March 22nd from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Now, I do want to share, we've had a death in our family this week, and so I had hoped to have that open today, but we're going to just say that'll be open next week because we've been working with our family here and supporting them during their time of need. And so this stuff kind of takes a back seat, when life kicks in. We just have to kind of take care of that stuff at that time. So you will be able to register for that workshop coming up next week and maybe even later on this week. And then the big thing is our chakra course. This is the month-long course that's coming out the first week in April. And so I'll be talking more about that over these next few weeks, but that's going to be a fantastic opportunity to really dive deep into the chakras, learn how they work, and learn how to balance them. And since we're talking about that, I'll show you guys. So many of you may not know, I'm a graphic designer. So I used to work in TV for over a decade. I've won Emmy Awards as an art director. And so I do motion graphics and website design for my day-to-day business. But what I design, the nice thing is now that I'm doing these workshops and these teachings, I can design things myself for what we're doing. So I created this set of, I'm calling them altar cards. And what I made them as is a deck of 7 cards, obviously the cover, and there's info on the back of each of them. But each chakra, I designed the chakra for it, and then on the back there is a little bit of definitions of each one, so you can see the location, the age of resonance, the color. And my thought for this is when you're going through this process, this chakra course with me, this would be a really fantastic thing each week to kind of put on your altar or wherever you have focus, to focus on the elements of the sacral chakra. And this is the solar plexus, right? And then this is the heart. This is the throat, the brow, the brow, and of course the crown chakra. So when you register for the chakra course, the chakra balancing course I have coming up, I will mail you one of these sets of cards so you can follow along with us. So That's just a little bit of housekeeping there. Now, how we're going to do this tonight, I'm going to go through and kind of go through the talk that I have. Now, I wrote this talk out because there are a lot of points on this that I want to make sure we cover tonight. And unlike last week, I kind of rambled around a little bit. I want to get through this real quick so that I can open it up for questions. And so if you have questions, again, it's just me doing this today. I can see your questions to the left-hand side here. So feel free at any time to write in your questions about a specific chakra. And as soon as I finish that segment, I'll kind of glance over there and answer your questions for you. So the first thing, I'm going to take a little sip of water as usual. I kind of get talking a lot and then my mouth gets dry. So, all right. The first basic question that a lot of people ask are, what are the chakras? The chakras, and the word chakra in Sanskrit means wheel. And so these are wheel-like energy centers. And what I like to say is that they're designed for the reception, digestion, integration, and elimination of certain energies in our body. Now, this may seem a little strange, but think about it like rooms of a house, right? Each room in a house is designed with a specific task in mind. So your kitchen is designed a specific way that's different than your bedroom or your bathroom. When you go get groceries at the grocery store, you don't bring those foods into the bathroom. You bring them into the kitchen because that's where they are meant to go. And that kitchen is designed for you to be able to cook in it, to cut up the food, to eat your food in there, to digest it, and then, of course, to get rid of the garbage that you cook with and take it out. So, if you think of the chakras as rooms of your house, each chakra has a specific duty or a purpose or a goal, as each room in your house does too. So, that's kind of an easy way um, to think of that there. So Charlie's asking here, do all chakras rotate clockwise? So Charlie, that's a very interesting thing, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on in this talk. The rotation of the wheels is something that I see them rotating clockwise, and I know some people see them rotating counterclockwise. I'm going to explain a little bit too about the Kundalini and the serpent that kind of goes up and pierces them. So I'll address that at that part there. Bonnie asks, how do they start, the chakras? So the chakras begin at the base of your spine, right at the perineum, and that's the root chakra. Then you move up a little bit higher to the sexual reproductive glands, for men, the testes, and the women, the ovaries. That is your sacral chakra. As you move up higher, your stomach is your solar plexus. Then you have the heart chakra, you have your throat chakra, your brow chakra, and the crown chakra. Now, again, to kind of put this in perspective, these are very real coagulations or gatherings of nerve endings in your body. So your stomach, I'm sure you know, has a lot of energy going in there to help you digest the food. The actual intestine, the stomach, and the small and large intestine, they're all located right in that area. So the solar plexus chakra is in that stomach area. And as you dive into them and learn a little bit more about them, each one is associated with a specific element. And they work in a very beautiful and understandable way. When we go from the base chakra up to the crown chakra, that is a liberating channel of energy. It is moving from things that are real and manifested and tangible, like your money and your home and your job, all the way up to the crown chakra, which is more consciousness and spirituality, things that you can't quite touch or put your finger on. So the energetics moving up is more of a liberating current, they call it. And if you think about it, each chakra is kind of a different phase in our life. And on these chakra cards that I have here, I'll just give you a quick example. The age of resonance for the root chakra is conception to 7 years old. And then when you go all the way up to the crown chakra, the age of resonance is 42 and above. So basically, as we age, certain things come into play. And one of those things would be like puberty. You know, you have certain interests as a child, and then you hit puberty, which is the sacral chakra, and that kind of kicks in. I think it was age 14, let's see here, 7 to 14 years old. So that's right around puberty. So again, then these different influences come in, and then now we're attracted to people, and those sexual things come up. And so that's when that chakra kind of forms. And the interesting thing about each of these chakras is, think about them almost as like a program or like data. rules, information that is placed in there. So, for example, the root chakra, it deals with home, and it deals with relationships, and the family unit, and friends, and your money, and your finances, and jobs. So if that chakra is out of balance, someone can display traits of being very greedy, and kind of taking. They never have enough. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough food. They don't have a big enough house. And I'm sure we all know people like that, where you look at them and they're like, I just bought a Mercedes, and then I got a yacht, and it's like, okay, when's enough? So that is an out of balance root chakra. Now, the other end of that is someone who, we may know these people in our life too, who are always struggling to hold down a job, or they bounce from job to job and job. And so that may be a deficiency in that root chakra. And the beautiful thing is, when we go through each of these chakras, we're able to balance them and tweak them depending on the traits and characteristics of that chakra. I want to go down briefly here the elements, and let me finish this thought. So the liberating current goes from the finite things that we can touch to the infinite up in the crown chakra. Now the other way, the other flow of energy down, is the manifesting path, the manifesting channel. So let's say I have a dream to start a new restaurant. I'm going to build this restaurant. I see it in my mind. I have this spark of inspiration. Greg, you should start a restaurant, which I've thought of many times. And so then that thought becomes a vision. I start to picture in my mind, what would it look like? It would look like the Northwest, big wood beams and leather and slate. And so I'm manifesting that in my mind here. I'm seeing that. Then I start telling people about it. My best friend Kelly here, that you guys have met before. Hey, Kel, I want to start a restaurant. This is what I want it to look like. And it starts to become a little bit more real as you begin to express it through the throat chakra. Then you move into the heart chakra, where you begin to develop an affiliation, some feelings for that thing. Like, I would love to have this. This could be really beautiful. Down to the solar plexus, which is our personal will and power to make things happen. Then I say, okay, I need to get a loan. I need to go find a business, building to put the restaurant in. Then you move down to the sacral chakra, which is that sensuality, and it's the creativeness, it's the fluidity of things. That's when I start going, hey, I want to have red velvet curtains and black leather chairs or whatever. And then there's the actual root chakra, which is where that thought is manifested into reality. So there are two channels going up and down. And someone had asked here, Janine had asked, is it best to start at the bottom or top? Janine, these are happening all the time within us. So I tend to like to start at the root when I'm explaining things and work my way up, just because it's easier to understand when I say the root chakra revolves around your home and the tangible things, my chair here and my dog and my money and all that stuff. Whereas if I start at the crown chakra, that's the total opposite. Then we're going to start talking about spirituality right off the bat, which may be difficult for people to digest and understand. So that's why I usually start at the root chakra. Now, here's another question. Why heal and balance the chakras? This is important. When the chakras are balanced, when energy flows up and down your spine, up and down these chakras, you have an ability to not only feel liberated and feel like you're growing in your life, and you're becoming more spiritual and in tune with our natural world around us, as well as that channel down where you say, I have a goal and I'm going to make it happen. And so that's when those two channels kind of come on, and when they're flowing, it's like real magic can happen. That's really beautiful. I kind of talked about this a little bit already. So, okay. So the chakra is another thing to think about. They are the portal between our human energy that we understand and that divine cosmos. Now, I talked about this last week in the shamanic practices, how that works too. So you may want to go watch that video as well. That's again also talking about that divine connection to spirit. Now, yoga, the word yoga means yoke or union in Sanskrit. And think about these chakras as the bridge between our real world that we can see and feel and the divine world that is out there. When we have issues come up, the way we deal, let me back up a little bit. When we're born, we come into this world with those programs that I was talking about. And as we move through life, we have life experiences that help reinforce the teachings that we were told, or we create new stories or new program that we put in. I'm sure we can all remember, um, the time when we were kids and just free and kind of dancing and moving around, and then someone said, "Hey, don't do that. Don't do that in here. Like, stop acting like a kid. Like, be quiet." That's one of those first things where it's like, "Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's a rule that now I know, like, I'm not supposed to talk in a certain place." And so these rules, as we grow up, they come from our families, they come from our communities, they come from our friends, they come from our society and culture. I grew up in the States, and we here grew up a little bit different than someone who may have grown up in Italy, for example. They have different traits that they follow, and they have different programming. And so they may respond to certain situations in their life in a different way than I would from my experience growing up here. The purpose of this is the big one. The purpose of balancing our chakras is to make the unconscious conscious so that we can actually make a choice and choose which way we want to go. So as we're younger, when we're children, we may not feel that, I've heard people say, like, you don't know what you don't know. And that's a really good statement. That's very true. We don't know what we don't know. But when we learn it, we gain a little bit more power to make an impact in our own life. We feel more empowered by knowledge. We feel more empowered by wisdom and by personal experience. A lot of people, I love to travel, and when you go to another country, it's beautiful to see how people live, because it puts your life in comparison, and it kind of makes you see a different perspective of living, and that's really a beautiful thing. It makes us better humans, I believe, on the whole, when we can see things around the world and people's lives in different perspectives. Now, experiences in our life will help solidify these patterns of behavior. Now, I can share some things about my own self. When I was younger, I definitely I was a little bit heavier, and I was insecure about myself, and I'm also gay, and so that added a cultural thing too. Of my family was not super in love with the idea that I was gay, and so I had to adjust the way I lived in the world so that people around me were more comfortable. And that is something, as an adult, that I had to look at and consciously choose to unplug those beliefs that I was told as a child, because they're simply not true. And the reality is, it doesn't really matter to me if anyone's uncomfortable that I'm gay or not, because it's just who I am, and you can't control it. But that's me at 42 saying that. Me at 16, I had a very different story. I didn't say anything. I dated women all through college. And so I wanted to fit in, and so that's just how that goes. But that's one thing I want to say just about life experiences, how that can kind of solidify or reinforce stories that we, as we grow up, then have to go back in and reevaluate and say, you know what, maybe this isn't the truth, and I need to change the way I think about things. So I hope that helps with that there. What are the chakras made of? The chakras are made of energy. So again, an ethereal topic. The chakras are energy. With that, in yoga, we call this prana. And so you may have heard people, when they do pranayama, which is a breathing pattern, you can do different breathing techniques to build your prana up and add more life force into your body. In Chinese medicine, it's called qi or ki. In Star Wars, they call it the Force. It's like every little lineage has their own description of what this energy is in our life. So that's what the chakras are made of. And they're aligned straight up and down our spine. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because this was fascinating to me when I found this out a long time ago. My mom was a nurse, and so I grew up with that caduceus, and my dad was a physical therapist. And so if you remember the caduceus, the medical symbol, it's a snake that kind of goes like this and kind of crisscrosses around itself, and the two snakes meet at the top, and then there's little wings behind it. When I was doing my first research on chakras and learning about them, I understood what those two things were, at least in the perspective of chakras. That those are the Kundalini snakes, the serpent, that they say it's a goddess in the form of a snake who lives in our sacrum, that honeycombed bone at the base of our spine. And in some yoga traditions, when people meditate consistently, there is a process called Kundalini Rising. And what that means is this snaken energy, that snaken was snake and serpent. The snake energy and serpent energy kind of comes up and crisscrosses, and it pierces each of the chakras on our spine. Kundalini is something that we don't try to make Kundalini rise because it is quite powerful. But what we want to do with balancing our chakras is if the Kundalini rises, it will have an ample and easy way to flow through our chakras. So that is kind of more of a just a yoga philosophy about the chakras and their purpose. But I thought it was really interesting about the caduceus, the medical caduceus there with the two snakes and that relationship to the chakras. I thought that was pretty fascinating. Let's see here. Okay, I talked about the liberating current versus the manifesting current. Blocks, when our chakras are blocked, this is a big one. This is the last thing I'm talking about, and then I'll answer your questions. Blocks and knots happen when opposing currents meet each other. So someone had asked, is it best to start at the bottom of the chakras or top? And I said, the energy is constantly flowing up and down all the time. And I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you have a job and you really do not like your boss. Every day you go into work, you're like, God, I hate that guy, man. He's such a pain in the butt, and I just don't want to be around him. And But at the same sense, you need that job, and so you need to not tell your boss to go screw because you need the job. So you go into work and you're like, oh, I hate that guy. I don't want to see him or whatever, and that's the energy coming up. And then all of a sudden you say, okay, but I'm going to stifle that energy. I can't express it. And so there's that energy pushing it down. Now, every day you do this, that you go into work, the anger comes up and you stifle it down. Anger comes up and you stifle it down. What happens eventually, two opposing forces are pushing against each other, and that chakra becomes blocked. Now, I'm not saying it's healthy to ignore your feelings. What I'm saying, and I expressed this in the last video too, is it's important for us to find a healthy way to allow those feelings to move through us and to be able to understand the need that we have. So coming back to this example of the boss, I may not like my boss, but I need to maybe talk to my best friend about, this guy drives me nuts. Oh my God, I can't stand him. But I need my job. I have a mortgage and bills and a family and all this stuff. So I just make that commitment. Hey, I'm going to let that energy towards my boss, I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to feel it or address it. I'm going to go in and do my job and try my best when my feathers get ruffled to just take a few breaths and just try to shake it off. And that's a big thing with yoga and meditation is non-attachment. So not being attached to these feelings of anger and frustration towards our boss or towards anybody. But that's how a block forms. When two opposing thoughts hit each other constantly and they keep hammering down this thing, our chakras get blocked. Now, if you think about it too as a garden hose, right? And let's say you have two garden hoses going up and down. I'm sure you've all watered your garden at one time and you turn the faucet on and the water flows through and everything is great. Then you kind of carry it around a little bit and the water shuts off. It's because there's a knot in that hose. That hose kind of flips over and it kind of knots around itself. Now, that knot is K-N-O-T, but I like to refer to it as knots, like N-O-T. And I feel like those blocks happen when we express ourselves in a way of like, I cannot and I will not, and I'm not enough, and I'm not thin enough, and I'm not. The goal of balancing our chakras and getting that energy to flow is we really want to feel more yeses in our life. We want to feel that the positive things, not the negative things. And I'm not trying to be all woo-woo and avoid the negative, but I'm just saying life would be nice if we had more yeses than nos. Instead of saying I'm not enough, to say, yeah, I feel good today. I'm going to go out and do something really awesome. So that is another important reason. And I hope that garden hose thing kind of makes you understand about how those knots and blocks will happen and how our mindset plays a role in that too. When we tell ourselves over and over again, oh, I'm not, no one would like me. I'm not even going to try to go out and date someone because, I'm not thin enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have whatever. That holds us back. And we're here for such a short time. It's like, we can't afford to be held back. There's no point in that. We want the yes. We want the positivity. We want to experience life to its fullest and saturate ourselves with the happiness and joy that life can bring. And so that can happen when we balance our chakras and get that flow of energy kind of moving in a healthy way. Some examples. I just wrote down some examples here. An excess solar plexus. Someone who's power hungry. The solar plexus is that place of power. So someone who's very dominant and power hungry, their solar plexus is working too much. There's an excess there. Now the counter of that is someone who is very meek and kind of a pushover, if you will. So that's someone whose solar plexus is deficient and lacking. Now, the person who is excessive, we need to remove some of that excess energy or whatever they're feeling. And you can do that through literally physical movement like yoga or hiking or running or working out. And you can also do that through the mental stuff, the meditating and the addressing these things that come up in our life and taking that power away from them. When we talk about things and we address them, they lose a little bit of the claws, they lose a little bit of the hooks in us, and we're able to live our life in a way that is much more gentle and kind towards ourselves. And so that's just one example of the excessive and deficiency thing here. So that's about all I want to share. Now I know once again it's 5:25, but I'll be here to answer your questions. So let's go through some of these and see what you guys have to say about that. Let's see. Charlie asked, "Why is it that my crown chakra is always, is always the started for me?" Hey Charlie, can you rewrite that question? I'm not sure what you mean by that when it says it's always the started for me. We'll come back to that. I'll look on the bottom and see if you rewrite that question. Um, Deborah writes, if I take on my partner's negative emotions way too much as my own, which chakra should I work on? Thank you. So Deborah, that's a great question. Now that is kind of something when we work with these, it is not just one chakra. It may be your heart is a little bit deficient. You're taking on these things. Now there are archetypes to each of these chakras too. There's an archetype of like the mother and the child. There's the prostitute and the wounded, healer, the angel, the vampire. There's all these different chakras that are different archetypes that are Freudian archetypes that have been placed on these chakras. And you can see when you read some of those descriptions of what the child means versus the mother, how some of those areas may impact your life. So Deborah, I think with what you're talking about, the negative emotions, you are empathing. Multiple chakras are open to receiving this energy. And this is something that is important for all of us, is to have healthy boundaries. Now, healthy boundaries kind of spook people out a little bit, and they say, well, I don't want to have walls up or whatever. I'm free love and I'm open, and that's beautiful. And hey, I'm free love and open too. But I also know what energy is mine and what energy is not. And I know it is not up to me to bring on someone else's energy into my own field, because I've done that many times in the past, and it hurts. It's detrimental and it spins me out. And so I think healthy boundaries, Deborah, is a really fantastic thing. And we can talk more about that too. Let's see here. How do we get to know, Vishkasha, how do we get to know which chakra is blocked and how to fix that? That's a fantastic question. Now, when you take this course with me, we're going to go over each of the chakras. They each have something to do. They each have a room in your house, like I said at the beginning. So I'll just go through them briefly. The root chakra, anything that has an issue around your home, your finances, your stability, your basic survival needs, enough food, stuff like that, that's your root chakra. When you move up to your sacral chakra, that is more emotional, that is sexual and sensual, that is the creativity, that's relationships and your confidence in your own self on a physical form. The solar plexus, I mentioned before, is that place of fire. It is the drive that we have to make something happen. It's kind of, in my mind, I think it's like turning the key in your car. It's like, it turns the car on. So that solar plexus is your power. Your heart, clearly, emotional relationships. But I also want you to think a little bit about that heart too, how it is not just for relationships. Your thyroid is right here as well. Your warrior's heart. The glands that puts out T cells and helps fight illness in our body comes from that area too. And then of course there's that relationship heart and the physical heart that pumps blood around us. So that's all there. The throat is the place of speaking your truths. I'm sure we all have quite literally choked down our words at one time or another. And those are the situations I was talking about with the boss, where something comes up and something comes down. When we do that over and over again, I need to say this to this person. I got to get this off my chest. There's that saying too. And then we don't do it. We choke it down. That is stifling your throat chakra. And many people have a deficient throat chakra because we are sensitive beings and we don't want to make people upset. And some people think that speaking your truth will in turn make someone upset, when it doesn't have to be. It is a great opportunity to use your creativity to come up with a beautiful way to express your thoughts in a way that is direct and to the point, but without being harsh. And that may take skill and talent, but it's something that I think all of us have the ability to do. And quite honestly, I think we all need to practice that, myself included, a little bit more nowadays. People are very harsh, especially online. So that voice thing is very powerful. Brow chakra, anything about your visions, your dreams, how you see yourself in the world. If you can have a goal, right? Let's say you have a goal to go to college. How does that work? What is the first step in that? That's all the brow chakra. If you're someone who says, I have all these goals and dreams, but I don't know where to start, it's like that may be a deficiency in your brow chakra, that inability to see things. And I don't mean the future or spirits, I just mean, how to get to some place. Another good example of the brow chakra that I like to say too is if you go hiking out in the woods, do you know which way north, south, east, and west are just by feeling rather than looking at a compass? That's a great way to kind of test and see how that brow chakra is. And then, of course, we move up to the crown chakra, which is the spirituality. That is a thought. That is essence. That is who we are from head to toe, literally. It's who we are as a person. So when you have an issue, I think some more people were commenting, so I think that question moved up there, Vishashka. How do we get to know which chakra is blocked and how to fix it? Whatever issue you're working with is going to be associated to one of those 7 rooms in your home, one of those 7 areas. Morgan, let's see here. It is believed that the body can physically express is it believed that the body can physically express when our chakras are blocked? Example, having a headache when your crown chakra is blocked. Morgan, that's a fantastic question. I'm going to actually go a step further than that too. I don't necessarily believe that when you have a headache, your crown chakra is blocked. There are many things that contribute to those mild symptoms, like lack of water, lack of sleep, staring at a computer too long. All of those things may cause a headache. To say that your crown chakra is blocked because you have a headache is insinuating, because again, what that crown chakra rules is who you are as a whole being. What I would say is when your crown chakra is blocked, you may not know who you are. You may not know what you like, what you are attracted to, what you want to do for a job. You may feel lost in your life. You may feel unguided. That's more of a deficiency in that crown chakra than just a headache. But it can, these issues can cause physical things in our body. For example, if your heart chakra is consistently deficient, if you have experienced heartbreak, man, you can have a heart attack. And that is something that is pretty serious. So I would think more of chronic long-term illnesses that you're facing, not just something kind of in the moment. So I hope that answers that for you there. Let's see here. We'll scroll down here. Bonnie, good to see you. I'm glad I'm helping you too. Let's see. Charlie. So here we go. By the way, it's Rena. Hey, Rena. Sorry, you're using a different thing there. I meant when I meditate, my crown chakra predominates the rest of my chakras, even with my best effort to start with the root chakra. Why is that? So Rena, that's a fantastic question. So when we meditate, again, meditation is seeing with our eyes closed. It's kind of close to shamanism, what I expressed last week in that video. When we meditate, we close our eyes, right? We're trying to ground ourselves and come back into our body and try to allow these thoughts to move through us. So Rena, when you're meditating is very much attached to the upper chakras. And so you're going to tap up against that crown chakra. Now, what I usually do to encourage people to feel the chakras, and there's a meditation that we're going to do with each chakra where you can check in with a big decision in your life in that course that I have coming up, is to actually touch that place with your hands. So what I do, like for my root chakra, I put my right hand between my legs and I put my left hand behind my back and I make it so that my middle fingers touch together. And right where that middle finger touches underneath my spine is around the place of my root chakra. Now, when I close my eyes and I kind of wiggle my finger a little bit, I'm like, okay, there it is. That can help me bring my attention down to my root chakra. And there are other things that I could express that would take much longer, but that's a good answer for this question in this arena. But it's a good thing that you brought up, Rena, and I may actually expand on that in upcoming talks too. So thank you for that. Sandra, Greg, I miss you. I miss you too, girl. It's good to see you over there. Jim, how you doing there? Deborah, best talk ever. Thank you so much, Deborah. So Sandra, let's see. If my spirituality is becoming more aware to me, does this mean my chakras are opening up? Yes. What spirituality means, and again, this is the fascinating thing about all of these chakras. Like I said before, they are all connected with different ages of development. So the chakras may seem like an ethereal thing that's like, oh, yoga people talk about it or whatever. But as we grow and develop, these programs come in and they take effect at a certain time. So, like I said before, the crown chakra, which is the home of spirituality, typically happens in someone from 42 onwards. Now, if you think about that in terms of the real world, when we're growing up, we are children. We are being taught by our elders, right? And then we kind of move up and we become teenagers and think we know everything. And then we go to college and, we go to schooling and we kind of get into our 20s and we kind of explore and have fun and whatever. Then I'm going to say this typically, because I didn't do this path and not a lot of people, not everyone does, but most people do. Typically, people would partner up and they would have children at that time. They're working on their career in their 20s and 30s. The focus is on teaching their children and caring for their children at that time. Now, by the time the 40s come around, we're most likely our children, if you had them in your 20s, are now in their 20s, and it kind of frees up time for adults. So a lot of people in their 40s begin to question, why am I here? What's the bigger purpose, right? You have a midlife crisis somewhere around your 40s. So that time frame does kind of it shows up in many different areas as a time when people begin to ask, what else is there and what is my true purpose here? So yes, that's a great question there, Sandra. Thank you. Um, Deborah asks, "Do your chakras ever just stop?" So Deborah, no. And this is what they stop when you die. So when you die, that flow of energy ends. And again, this is something that we talked about in the last one too, with the flow of energy. When things move, right? As my body that you're looking at right now is alive, I go to sleep and I breathe on my own. So it's like my body is constantly triggering and firing things to happen. My brain, my nervous system is controlling the beat of my heart. I don't have to do that consciously. So our chakras are constantly receiving, digesting, integrating, and eliminating information every day, all day as we go through. And so, yes, Deborah, they would never stop unless we die. And then that energy would be transformed. And what I like to say is, we're living in this life, we're in this ceremony, and when we die, we go on to the next ceremony, and that energy kind of transitions into that phase. So thank you guys so much. It looks like we just went a couple minutes over, which is great. But just as a reminder, thank you for joining us. If you like this talk, I'd love for you to share it. I'm trying to reach more people and get the word out of what we're doing here in our group. My next workshop, Mantras and Our Voices Medicine, which is going to be fantastic, is coming up on Monday, March 22nd. And like I said, that my website, I've been working really hard on it. And so in next week, I will promise you that those things will be open to register for that workshop. And then, of course, in April, the whole month of April, we'll be doing our Chakra Course together, which will include, not only will you be getting these beautiful cards that I designed, but you will have pre-recorded videos that you will learn about each chakra. And then we will come together every Sunday night for a big discussion about questions that